Good evening, listeners. This is Blessed Radio. It's Tuesday evening, just after 6 p.m. UK time. This is the Spiritual Discussion Program. I'm Saad in London, Southeast London, Bromley, and with me is Gregory. Gregory, you're there?
Hello.
Welcome, Gregory. Yes, here in London, now it's overcast, but it was lovely and warm earlier on, blue skies, that is overcast now. How is it where you are?
It's just cool.
Cool, okay, yes, maybe I can say that here as well, actually. So yes, welcome listeners to the Spiritual Discussion Program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. And we have a topic every week, a new topic every week. The topic for tonight is blessings and curses. Blessings and curses. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. I'm going to begin with what is the Grail Message? The Grail Message in the Light of Truth by Abdushin is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life, for through the knowledge mediated, the readers again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail Message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized, and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover, through the intuitive perception, if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail Message, Abdushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail Message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole, without leaving any gaps. Again and again, in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail Message lives, so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly all all else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace if he earnestly seeks for the truth. Dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic we're discussing tonight is blessings and curses. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text or use WhatsApp. Gregory, as usual, I looked at the topic for tonight, which is, as I said, blessings and curses, and looked in the dictionary, and this is what I found for the word blessings, or blessing. God's favor and protection. And they give an example on that. May God continue to give us his blessing. There's a second definition also attached to that. I think I'll just put it in as well. It says a prayer asking for divine favor and protection. So I'll just repeat that, Gregory. The meaning of the word blessing in the dictionary. God's favor and protection, that's one definition given, and then it says another one is a prayer asking for divine favor and protection. Just want to ask you, Gregory, is that a good definition for the word blessing?
If blessings are to be discussed at all, then it is necessary to understand the framework that is meant by blessing. Blessings has nothing to do with favors, and therefore both definitions one gave are completely out of touch, very far from the facts.
Thank you for that. I must say, immediately when I looked at this definition, or as I was saying that definition, it didn't seem, let's say, really accurate in the sense of being, covering what a blessing is, really. It's much more than what, yes, you pointed out the word favor is not even in the right context at all. And I think of blessing as a much more all-pervading, you could say, even I can't think of the right word to say it, but something like, something that we have been given as a gift, but it's like the whole life is a gift, if I can put it in sort of word to describe blessing. To give an appreciation of that word compared to what the dictionary definition is. Yes, it looks like very limited and in fact even incorrect, as you have pointed out, Gregory, this word favor. It's not, although they also use the word protection as well. That sounds let's say that's still limited, but it gives some meaning there. So it does make some sense there. How should we look at blessing then, Gregory? Is everything a blessing in life?
When you ask such questions, is everything a blessing in life? Then one must ask, the evils which have been put there by man, is that a blessing? Of course not. Only those things, those activities which resonate or swing within the laws of nature, within the laws of creation, that is, these laws through which the human personality came into existence at all. Only within these laws can one ever contemplate what a blessing is. So whatever is of benefit in accordance with these laws, whatever activity is of benefit to the human personality and its environment is a blessing if these activities bring benefit to the human personality and also to its environment. By human personality, one is referring to the intrinsic core of man, that is spirit.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. You have pointed to the laws of nature, so blessing coming, you could say, through the laws of nature. And if I just go back to the dictionary definition, they refer to blessing coming from God. So is it, just to clarify that, are we also saying that is the blessing coming just through God? Could I say that the blessing is from God, or is it just the laws of nature? I just want to clarify that.
The question one must ask oneself, these laws of nature, these laws of creation, or these divine laws, from where did they originate?
Well, the implication is that it is from the Creator, from God, even if, because where does nature come from otherwise? So that's what you would think, that nature is through God, so it originates from God. Is that right? Will I be?
Subsequently, nature arose out of the radiation that streams from on high.
Thank you. Thanks for that. Now, I've got a few questions actually, and I'm just trying to order them in a way that we can, look at them. So, when I started, Gregory, I said, is everything a blessing in life? And of course, you pointed out that, things that are evil, it can't be a blessing, which of course, obviously correct. But talking about the laws of nature, and thinking of nature, everything from nature, you would consider that to be a blessing, We have been created, as you pointed out, through nature or the laws of nature, and the whole creation actually has come through nature, and what has been provided through nature is a blessing. So in a sense, if we look at it that way, Gregory, just to confirm, so everything through nature is a blessing. Am I right to say that?
No. There
Okay.
are things that have been distorted in nature. The distortion itself cannot be a blessing. But such distortions, like evil, are in nature.
Right. So just to reconfirm that or reclarify that, so you said there are distortions in nature.
Yes.
Is that nature bringing its own distortion, or is
No.
not? Okay.
The activities of the human personality has brought into being what was not intended, and that is the evil which has been brought into nature through man's activities. That in itself cannot be a blessing, for you now have centers which has arisen through this type of distortion, through the wickedness that have been brought into it, and it is all also in nature.
So I can sort of understand that, Gregory, because we interact with nature, and obviously, if you look at Earth, our activities on Earth, let's say even just, maybe this is not the right way to call it a small sin, but let's say when we cause pollution and waste, which is not, let's say, disposed of in a natural way or recyclable way, we're causing pollution, and that is a distortion, because nature has to deal with that, and so that is causing a distortion in nature. What about, Gregory, when we harm another human being? Does that affect nature as well? Is that, I know that is evil, obviously, to do any harm is evil, but to harm a fellow human being, does that have an impact on nature as well?
Of course. Such harm also have adverse effects. For to bring harm to another, one along the line must have distorted that which is supposed to be of benefit to another person. Such distortions have grotesque effects on one's thoughts, on one's environment, and what you then have that's in accordance with the attraction of homogeneity. Such distortions take on very strong forms, and you may find that along the line, someone who is not very strong within himself or herself is able to be in touch with these distortions and carry out terrible crimes, which crimes would not have been there.
Thank you for that, Gregory. I'm now just thinking of experiences in life where, some people are born, you could say, it was in the news recently actually, but I won't mention the specific incident right now, but let's say somebody is born disabled, and let's say looking on the surface, you would think, oh, the child born disabled, oh, that's well, maybe I shouldn't call it a curse, but it's definitely not, it doesn't look like a blessing than someone whose a child is, if if I can put quotes, normal. So is that a way to look at these things, Gregory, that somebody is born disabled? I've got, anyway, many, there's a variety of such examples of blessing and curses. So I just want to look at them, like, to see if, we can get the right context for it. So, Gregory, yes, if a child is born disabled, whatever it is should that be considered a blessing or even a curse?
As a matter of facts, these occurrences must be checked very carefully and to ensure what lies behind these occurrences. Like you just mentioned, a child born, in quotes, with some disability. There is the possibility that such a disability might be due to some reciprocal action, which reciprocal action may be referred to as karma. There is also the possibility that many a person, in order to understand the challenges of what disabilities are, makes a request and takes on a body that has a particular disability, such that in experiencing it, it will now know how to deal with it. There are some who could not speak properly. However, because they were born with it, they had to practice and practice and practice until they became orators. These things are well documented and known in the past. So one has to be careful when making a pronouncement on this. Like one said, the possibility of a reciprocity of a karma which one had incurred here or there, returning to it, that is one possibility. The other possibility will be of a personality taking on itself to understand what these particular challenges are, and then coming down with that, in quotes, disability and learning from it. That is another possibility.
Thank you, Gregory, for your answer there. A listener has just phoned in asking a question, and he's saying that, or asking, can a blessing become a curse? If I think I'm right, that's what he said. I think that's what he asked me. So I'm just doing that from memory. So can a blessing become a curse?
When blessings or a blessing is mentioned, these are activities which are beneficial to the personality and its environment. Whatever is beneficial to the human spirit and its environment, that is a blessing. However, when these challenges which are beneficial to the human personality are presented, if the human personality does not make use of these opportunities, which opportunities came through the laws of creation, then it's a curse. It's not a curse from the laws of creation. It's only a curse because the human personality refuses to make use of that which should bring its blessing through vigorous activities.
Thank you, Gregory. The listener has corrected me on the question he's asked actually. So the actual question, Gregory, I apologize. It is, can a curse become a blessing? So, yeah, can a curse become a blessing?
What is referred to a curse is what one had just referred to, that you have an opportunity to be beneficial, and that opportunity is not utilized, then that scenario is a curse. So it's not that you have creation raining down curses on human spirits. No, it is human spirits neglecting the fulfillment which is supposed to assist them in their spiritual maturity. That is the cause.
And so yes, basically it's a human being who is, let's say, the cause of a curse, not nature or the laws of nature. So the question, Gregory, was, can curse become a blessing? So which we have pointed to, that the curse would only come through a human being's actions, rather than through creation. So if...
Sorry, can I make it very clear?
Yes.
Creation presents the human personality, which human personality also came into existence in creation. Creation presents the human personality the manifold opportunities to mature. These are facts. That is why you have the sense of smell, the sense of sight. These are what nature, the five senses, these are what nature has provided. Nature also provided the intuition, which is basically the activity of the personality, the intuitive activity of the personality, of the human spirit. Nature also provided the frontal brain, the intellect. These, the intuition and the frontal brain, are supposed to cooperate. These are provisions which creation has granted the human personality to work harmoniously to ensure all that the human personality engages in are of benefit to its spiritual maturity. If the human personality does not make use of these manifold, splendid, magnificent opportunities granted to it, then it is the human personality that has caused itself.
And so the listeners asked the question about, can the curse become a blessing? So what you're pointed to is that human being has been the cause of that curse. How can is it possible that that curse could be turned into a blessing?
A human personality who has missed an opportunity for maturity, is that missing an opportunity a blessing? Or is in neglecting an opportunity, is that a blessing? Which opportunity is supposed to allow you to mature and return home as a self-conscious human spirit?
So what you're saying, Gregory, the human being has to resolve to use his abilities in the way nature intended, you could say, for it to become a blessing. That's it's in their own hands. Oh.
It has always been within the free will of man.
Yes.
The free will, man has to choose whether it wants to engage in vigorous activities to become self-conscious within the period granted to it in the world of matter, and in becoming self-conscious to be able gradually to return to its origin and become a useful tool in creation, a tool of value. If it misses this opportunity, or if it ignores or does not make use of this opportunity, then it has cost itself. Once that picture becomes very clear, then it is now left for the human spirit to continue to make efforts rather than wait and listen to distractions, thinking or considering that other people have instituted a course. Nothing like that. For anyone who has ill intentions on another, such a person binds himself or herself to those regions where ill intention is the norm in accordance to homogeneity. Such personalities bind themselves because they have caused themselves. So the time has come when many must understand what a blessing is and how man, through its negligence, has caused himself.
Thank you, Gregory, for your answer there. The listener's live on the phone now, so I'm going to ask him to speak direct to you or to us. So, hello, listener.
Hello, I'm here.
Yes, go ahead. There's a bit of rewound. I might have to repeat your question, but go ahead now.
Yes. The reason why I said can a curse become a blessing is because do you remember the story about David and Bathsheba? Well, David went in unto Bathsheba, who wasn't his wife, killed Uriah, then took Uriah for his wife, and had Solomon afterwards. That's why I asked the question, can a curse become a blessing? Because Solomon was a blessing.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask you to say that again, but sort of give us the picture of what you're trying to point to, because I didn't quite follow what you said. So I know there's Solomon. You said Dave. Yeah, just say the story again, just to.
I'll say the story again.
Yeah.
David goes in unto Bathsheba, who wasn't his wife. He commits adultery with Bathsheba, who wasn't his wife. Kills her husband, Uriah.
Right.
Then after that, he marries her, and then he has a child for her, which was Solomon. So a blessing came out of a curse.
I see. Okay, yes, I got your point now. Just thank you for that, listener. I'm going to go to Gregory and just make sure he heard that. So just hold. Yeah, thank you. Gregory.
Yes.
I don't know if you heard this story, what the listener
Very
said.
well, I did.
Okay, so please, if you can respond to that.
it is very clear, even within the commandments which was given through Moses, when it was said within the 10 Commandments not to covet thy neighbor's wife or its good. David went ahead, violated that, and had Solomon. Then ask yourself, in the final analysis, what did Solomon do? Had, in quotes, in accordance to earthly expectation, great wisdom. Would one call that wisdom when we have all the things about Baal, the false gods at that point? Why do many hold on to this? What was the wisdom of Solomon? When looked at, examined correctly, you'll find that that particular scenario, what David himself has done, he has sown a seed. And that seed, in which he destroyed a striving human personality, he showed an example that he himself, who is supposed to be the shining example, violated it. Look at the case of Moses. Start from that case. Moses himself, who grew up in the palace of the Pharaoh. He didn't know what hunger was. He was granted the opportunity of the laws of the Almighty. The first opportunity he had in coming to the people of Israel, he shattered the law. What a conviction Moses showed. You mentioned David. What did he do? He wrote poems which, in quotes, were convincing to many. When he had the opportunity and saw some other person's wife, he took her and slaughtered the man. What a conviction. Are these the examples that people are supposed to follow? And then you mentioned Solomon, because he built a temple. Of course, Lucifer can also build temples. And what did he do? He had to marry as many. What an example. The time has come for many to wake up and see the core of these activities and move away from them. It is David who cursed himself. It is Solomon who cursed himself. So it must be realized that these were personalities who were granted the opportunities to show examples. What happened after Solomon? The realm of Israel started falling apart. What happened on the long run? They were defeated and just scattered all over the place. One cannot say from a curse there will be a blessing. The curse, in quotes, may be a blessing if the individual learns and desists from such activities. Only the activities which swing unconditionally and bring benefit to the individual spiritually and to its environment spiritually is a blessing. Else, such threads are woven which will hold back the human personality and is unable to make any progress. Even if we, seen from an earthly point of view, may consider such a person great, such are not great.
Thank you, Gregory, for your answer there. What I can say is that the laws are absolutely consistent and can't even say the right word, unbreakable, if I can say it that way. So breakable, yes, you can go against them. In unbreakable, what I mean by being unbreakable means you can work against them, but then the consequences of the laws will always hit you. So, in other words, wrong is wrong, and just because somebody does wrong doesn't mean he gets a right out of doing something wrong. So each wrong can only bring the wrong result, and the good deed brings a good result. So you can't turn wrong into a right. A consequence of a wrong action cannot be a good result. It's only how your attitude as a human being to an let's say to an event or to an experience, that is where you have the choice and how you can redirect yourself. But don't expect the laws of nature to sort of give you some, let's say you eat poison or you take poison and then you expect to have some paradise fruit in return. That it doesn't work like that. So, and this has got to be, Gregory, as you're pointing out, need to be clearly understood, and so we can't contradict so like I said, two wrongs can make a right, or whatever way people might think inconsistently. It doesn't work like that. The laws are completely consistent and inflexible in their action. So if you do wrong, you get wrong. If you do good, you get good. And it's just not, you can't reverse that. The only reversal is your attitude, that you recognize from your errors that, okay, this was not right, what I did here, and then you choose to turn to the good, you can say. And then, of course, you can start sowing good things again. So, yeah. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message, by Aprishin. And if you are interested in knowing more about the Grail Message, or want to get a copy of the Grail Message, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic we're discussing tonight is blessings and curses. Blessings and curses. You are welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us on our UK number, it is 07939641958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And just to remind you, we are broadcasting on blessradio1, the number 1.com. We're also broadcasting on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again, the number 1, space, live stream. That's for the live show. And if you can listen to the recording of this show the next day, again on YouTube, go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1, space, Grail Message, space, the topic of the show, which tonight is blessings and curses. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows as well on YouTube. And thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno.fm/Bless Radio 1. Zeno is ZENO.fm/Bless Radio 1, the number 1. Gregory, I want to talk about how should we, respond to blessings. Should we show sort of gratitude of thanks, like a prayer of thanks? Yes, how should be our response to the blessings that surround us?
Very simply, whatever opportunity has been granted to the individual, whatever opportunity surrounds the individual, the only gratitude that individual can give is to make use of the opportunity in the right way, in accordance with the laws through which he himself came into existence. Because in that opportunity, he receives. In making use of it in the right way, he strengthens himself. Whoever has received must make use of it, revalue it, and ensure that others with whom he or she associates in thoughts also benefit from it. That itself brings joy to the human personality and also brings joy and happiness to the environment. That itself is gratitude.
Thank you for that, Gregory. I now want to look at, Gregory, a few, you could say historical events. For example, Gregory, last week we were talking, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, I've actually forgotten, we were celebrating Ramadan, Easter, and Passover. And I just wanted to, the Passover is a celebration or commemoration of the freeing of the Jews in Egypt under the Pharaoh from slavery. And they were a slave for 400 years, I believe, until they were freed. And and obviously being slaves cannot be considered a blessing. It was definitely you could call a curse. And as you've said, Gregory, these curses are through our own actions. So my question on that, Gregory, is, it took them, the Jews there, 400 years to become free from that slavery in Egypt. So my question on that, Gregory, is first question, Gregory, was that slavery due to the Jews, let's say, you could say, because of their past actions, let me say that way, of, you could say, disobeying God?
It must be understood aright. Whenever slavery is mentioned, many feel so much uneasy, whether it was the slavery of the people of Israel or of the slavery that occurred about 200, 300 or 400 years ago, or the trans-Saharan slavery, or slavery everywhere. Many have really not reflected on what this slavery is, which slavery was precipitated through the activities of man. Many cry out for freedom, but only he or her who lives and swings unconditionally within the will of the Lord Almighty is free. First, there is the wrong understanding that precipitates what is referred to as slavery. For were the human spirit alive spiritually, he himself or herself will immediately understand that whatever they do to others, one way or the other, it will come back to them. So you have many who sow seeds of the domination of others. However, having sown such seeds, here or hereafter, or here again, they themselves will have to experience it. That itself is slavery. But the biggest of slavery, which many a human personality has been considered, is the voluntary subjugation of the human personality to the intellect. Because when the spirit is not agile enough, is not mobile enough, is unable to see clearly, and therefore it is tied to very narrow concepts. That tying oneself to narrow concept is slavery. As soon as the human personality, through its activities, convinces itself that whatever it dishes out to others, sooner rather than later, it will return to it, then it severs. It is forced to sever such ignoble threads which will hold it down. Then it becomes free. That is the slavery which many a human personality must contend with. So, when the questions arise, the people of Israel had to suffer for 400 years before they were liberated. Why did it have to take 400 years? Did they not know how to walk within themselves? It was stated very clearly. Vengeance is mine, I will repay. And when Christ came, he made it very clear. Forgive us our trespasses as we have forgiven those who trespass against us. Those are activities which sever the threats of slavery. But these things are only spoken of, and many do not heed to it. And therefore, because many have not interpreted that which came from the light to them, they haven't interpreted it aright, they fall into disrepute. They burden themselves with guilt. Slavery becomes like guilt. In fact, slavery is guilt. So the time has come through spiritual mobility. Which spiritual mobility allows the human personality to be awake, to know that just as he himself or herself is striving for spiritual freedom, so are others. And just as he himself or herself wish to be assisted to improve himself or herself, so are others. Once that one dawns on the human personality, then many will become free. Then that hymn, which has been praised again and again, free at last, free at last. Thanks. Thanks because the human personality is awake and now know how it has to move in creation. It now knows how to weave its threads, which threads will pull it upwards and also pull others upwards. And working hand in hand with others, they can now strive jubilantly upwards, up to the light. That is what is demanded of the human spirit.
Thank you for that answer and explanation, Gregory. What I'm getting from you there is that we look at these events, or not quite sure how to refer to them, or stories, as let's say slavery and freedom in a very you could say physical way or earthly way, and not into the, let's say, deeper spiritual events behind it. And so the freedom is on the surface, or looks like, our physical freedom, that we can go where we want to go or be where we want to be. But that's not really going deeply to the, when we say why, how it was caused and how it happened that we became slave, but are not looking at our own actions that led to that, which could be our thoughts and other what we have harmed others. And even, let's say, Gregory, in this case, we can even say previous lives, because these events, when we talk spiritual things, can be more than one earth life. And as you mentioned before, karma, when something happens, do we know what we have done in our previous lives? It is, most of us have no idea about that. So it's these events have to be looked in a very in a big picture, if I can say. So I want to give you another example, or another event, Gregory, to look at. This is about slavery. Just recently, as you know, the royal family, the UK royal family, has been visiting the Caribbean islands, and there's been talk about slavery there and reparations. And from the Caribbean islands. They haven't put anything formally, it's just been talked in words. And what I want to ask Gregory, when this slavery which has taken over has taken place over centuries, and we in this particular case we are saying Britain ruling over these Caribbean islands and taking these slaves from Africa to the Caribbean islands, and using them as, you could say, free labor for on plantations and so on, and then and they were freed, let's say, after hundreds of years later, and the British government paid the slave owners compensation, but they didn't give anything to the slaves when they became free, anything. And now, again, 100 years later, the people are saying, oh, you should give us reparation, those who suffered the slavery, or let's say the descendants. So what I want to ask Gregory is, how do we look at that in terms of laws of nature or laws of creation, in terms of justice? When somebody has committed the same slavery, we can understand the people who are slaves, they may have done something that resulted in that they become slaves. But what about the ones who did the actions and paying back for their actions? How should they be? How should that happen in terms of the laws of creation?
The question must always be, when considering the laws of creation or the laws of nature, that as at now, are we sure that it was not those who enslaved the people at that time who have now incarnated in the enslaved lands? It is they who are now asking for compensation. They who were compensated, in quotes, at that time in their past life, now having to experience that which they have instituted, are now asking for compensations again. Have they ever reflected along such lines? Have they ever reflected that they have had this so-called independence? How have they responded to their fellow men, their fellow women within their neighborhood? How have they gone about it? Compensation. By compensation, they are talking of material resources. Material resources are helpful. But how do you use material resources to ensure it brings benefit, not to one, but to all? The best compensation that may be granted to another is to assist that particular personality to build up, to also to see things better, to improve spiritually. That in itself is compensation, and not these continuous requests for monetary compensation, which monies will be used and frittered away as soon as they arrive, or to build up structures which bring no benefit to the people. If, however, you have assistance in health or institutions, which many can then use, then they live as they should, as to love their neighbor as themselves. So what is circulated in the media misses the real point. For many just want compensation. What is money other than printed paper? There is no money in heaven. Money is an invention by man here on earth. So people must make a decision to earn paper here on earth, or to do something which is of benefit, which when they leave hereafter, it will be of benefit to them to come to better appreciation and improve spiritually. So the human spirit, the personality has to make a decision.
Thank you again, Gregory, for that answer and picture. Because, as you say, do we know what we were before and what we have done before? And then we start demanding, oh, this happened, so we deserve this, or we must have that. It just reminds us to live in the present and deal with the situation that we are with now, rather than looking into the past and saying, oh, that happened, and now but that happened to some other people. It might be, as you said, it could be us who were there in the past as well. So, but really, we must deal with what we have in the present. So thank you. Now, another thing, Gregory, this is all things I'm bringing up today, Gregory, things that have been happening in the news, many stories, and that's why I chose this topic of blessing and curses. Now this is, again, you could say, to do with our human behavior or attitudes. Gregory, especially in the world of today, we are able to, let's say, diagnose or just people with, let's say, certain disabilities which were not known. And for example, I want to talk some practical things. Let's say somebody suffering dyslexia or autism, and that might not be obviously that somebody is misbehaving or having difficulty in education, and in the adult life in dealing with things. And then, let's say, on the surface, they look like somebody is misbehaving, especially somebody's autistic, for example. He might shout or scream on something, and it doesn't, like, let's say, a normal child, you wouldn't expect that to happen, but it happens from this child. And then other people when they see, let's say, passing that scene, they make a judgment, oh, this is a badly behaved child. And actually, it is something from what they're suffering, which is, let's say, autism in this case, that I'm using as an example. So, Gregory, how can we, these are, let's say, things, sometimes these are mistakes or behaviors that people are making, in quotes, innocently, because of their lack of awareness or ignorance about, the situation of the person. And so my question is, Gregory, when we experience things, observe other people around us with certain behavior which we find odd, or let's say out of order, if I can put it in that way, on the surface, how can we be careful not to fall into wrong judgments? Let me say that way. How can we do that?
Very simply, patience. Patience is a virtue. Patiently to observe in humility. When a person of good volition is patient and observes in humility, such a person then builds up the virtues. And in patience and persistence, in compassion, understanding that in compassion, just as he himself or herself has challenges, that other person has challenges. Before too long, many a time, that person's wisdom expands. That person is now able to have a better picture in patience and in silence. The challenge has always been many are so very quick to discuss that which they themselves do not understand. And because of that quickness, errors are made, which errors sometimes are catastrophic. Therefore, if one does not wish to fall into that category of impatient person, of one who has no compassion, then one must, in the first instance, be strong enough to observe patiently and, courageously. Be courageous to the extent to admit to yourself that one has seen an activity which one is unable to explain. Before long, with the right attitude, many a solution will come in an unexpected way.
Thank you for that answer, Gregory. Humility is very, very easy to say, but not maybe easy to act on. So it's it's a good way to, I'm going to say, stray on the straight and narrow. When you don't know things, jumping to conclusions is quite dangerous, as you pointed to, Gregory, and can bring great harm, not only to the person you are judging, but also to you. So thank you for that. Dear listeners, you're listening to Bless Radio. It's the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail Message by Abdushin. If you are interested in knowing more about the Grail Message or want to get a copy of the Grail Message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that. www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And you're listening to Bless Radio, as I said. We are broadcasting on Bless Radio 1, number 1.com. We are also on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, again the number 1, space, live stream. That's for the live show. You can also listen to the recording of this show the next day. Again, go to YouTube and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, the number 1, space, Grail Message, and then space, the topic of the show, which tonight is blessings and curses. And of course, you can listen to our previous shows as well. Thirdly, we are also broadcasting on zeno.fm/Bless Radio 1. Zeno is ZENO.fm/Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1. And the topic, as I mentioned, we are discussing tonight is blessings and curses. You're welcome to join us with any questions or comments. The number to contact us is, on our UK number, it is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. Gregory, there was another news story. Basically the famous footballer Cristiano Ronaldo and his partner Georgina Rodriguez. They had it's difficult to describe it, but basically they were expecting twins, and they had the safe birth of their daughter, a baby twin daughter. But unfortunately, the twin baby boy, unfortunately, he died. And it's very difficult to sort of comprehend that. So, as I said, there was a tragedy of a death, and yet also joy of a birth of a baby. One baby's death and one baby's birth. And so, Gregory, I was wondering, it's quite a difficult thing to how to deal with that. So, what can we make of that, Gregory, when something like that happens? Such a tragic event at one point, one part, and the other part is joyous.
Whatever the situation, as many may judge in a one-sided manner, thinking or making statements, this is beautiful, this is ugly. The opportunities granted to human personality are such that it has cause to show gratitude in the scenario which those who experience that scenario, the experience which has matured for them that they needed, one has to show gratitude. So, when it is said, oh, one has come and one has gone, are you sure the one who has left has not experienced that which he or she needs, and therefore no need to stay any longer? Looking at things from an intellectual way, it seems that many things are narrowed down. For those who are personally involved will experience joy or sorrow. They, deep within their souls, may have found answers. Each person has his or her challenges. The best one may do is to send them good thoughts. More than that, one can do nothing. Because life or living, the opportunities to live is granted from above. what man refers to as life has been faulty. It is faulty because they only see things from an earthly point of view. In this program, in these discussions which we hold on Tuesdays, it has always been based on or in the light and also in truth. Therefore, there is the need to see things or to strive to comprehend things in a comprehensive manner rather than in a one-sided manner. For many who may wish to comprehend things in a comprehensive manner, then this opportunity granted through this work, which work in the light of truth, will present all these happenings, all these manifestations in a much deeper insight. One can offer no more.
Thank you for this answer, Gregory, and the picture you're painting. What it tells me is that, obviously we see things from our, let's say, earthly point of view. Oh, this is a tragedy, or this is a joyous occasion. But as usual, we're looking only from, you could say, part of the story, not the, not the whole life of that person or personality. In this case, let's say the baby son who died. What do we know? That what led up to that point? And we go back with our, let's say, our own idea of happiness and joy and tragedy, and not really see the true picture. And then, and that picture that we look at is just a very limited, narrow picture. So, you could, as I said, today's topic is blessings and curses. And at one point you think, is it a curse or is it a blessing? But all these things are happening within the laws of nature. It's not arbitrary what is happening. Gregory, it points to, again, earlier, our ignorance, We talked about just the one question before about, somebody with autism, a child with autism misbehaving. On the surface, it looks like misbehaving. A child is misbehaving, but actually they have a condition called autism, where they, let's say, misbehave from what we think. But actually there's something, a handicap there, which we are not realizing. And so it just shows how, what I want to ask from that, Gregory, in this discussion, does it mean we should accept the situation, Gregory, as whatever, in quotes, tragedy? Because happiness, we're always happy to accept a joyous event. But when there's a tragedy, do we just accept it? Oh, you could say, this happens, these things happen. I'm putting it a bit casually, but I don't mean it casually, but it's like you just accept these things are not in your hands in a way. They're just, that's because, as I said, these things are unexpected events. So do you accept, in quotes, the tragic events?
Be it sorrow or joy, the opportunity is offered to the personality to examine further, to open up, to see a more intuitive picture to have a more comprehensive picture. So whether it is sorrow or whether it's joy, as long as lessons, as long as these happening triggers, as long as this happening has an impact on the spiritual man or woman, then the individual awakes even for a few seconds and then perceives that there is more to it than the physical body of man. That in itself is progress. To accept in a dull way, without further reflection, without further investigation, is unhelpful. For before long, another event will strike again. But as soon as the individual opens up intuitively and investigates a bit further through his thoughts, through his intuition, before long, patterns, ways open up in being awake. And should he follow such a route, because he or she has opened up, then in accordance with the laws of creation, with such a good volition for further investigation, to follow things intuitively, such a personality seeks. Such a personality is knocking. And according to the words of Christ, he or she who seeks in spirit, will find. He or she who knocks, who exercises his spirit in knocking on the souls of men, or in opening up to the events in creation, in life, doors will be open. Doors of joys, doors of power will flow in reciprocity to it, to he or she who seeks, to he or she who knocks, to he or she who asks. These words are meant spiritually and therefore must be taken spiritually. So one should not wait for these events to hit man. One should go about sowing joy, showing joyful activities in everywhere one goes. Then, for certainty, the returns will be joyful activity. That is what is expected of the human spirit. In fact, that is its task.
Thank you, Gregory, again for your answer and explanation. I've got a sort of different question, Gregory, now. Because some people think or curse, it can be, somebody can put a spell and, curse someone. And just before I give an example on that, Gregory, or ask a question on that rather, I just want to say something in the dictionary. When I was looking up the word curse, it said a solemn utterance intended to invoke a supernatural power to inflict harm or punishment on someone or something. I'll just repeat that. It's meaning of curse in the dictionary. This is just one meaning, a specific meaning here. It says a solemn utterance intended to invoke a supernatural power to inflict harm or punishment on someone or something. And they give example, she put a curse on him. So in that context, Gregory, is that a meaning of that definition? Does that make sense at all?
The word curse has always been debated, and many will prefer to look outside for the source of their problem and say a curse has been put. There has been no cause but laziness. It is the laziness of man. It is the lack of foresight of man which is a cause. The indolence of the spirit is the cause. Many who say how can you put in quotes a solemn cause when you yourself, you are powerless. You yourself are subject to the laws of creation. Of course, many can put so much difficulties on the path of another. But in doing that, they, through their activities, are tying knots on themselves. In that case, are they not causing themselves? The time has come for many to sever these wrong concepts and make use of that which is beneficial to the human personality rather than looking at others and say they are the source of the problem.
Thank you for that, Gregory. But they do, let's say, there are stories of where people have put a spell out of vengeance or whatever is the reasoning on another person, without mentioning any specific examples. So the person who is, in quotes, the victim or the intended target is not aware of this spell, let me say. And so, Gregory, what I'm saying is that a person could have some vengeful thoughts against another person, and that who's as I say, their target. So would not those once you have these thoughts, would not they have a reaction on that person that they're targeting?
There is what you yourself mentioned, vengeful thoughts. Again, it is stressed, vengeance is mine, I will repay. So the one who has vengeful thoughts is binding himself or herself. When you now hear people as if they have some strength, some, in quotes, supernatural strength, or, in quotes, supernatural power, this only comes into evidence when people follow others without their own self-examination. Therefore, they subject themselves to the thought of others. That in itself is the cause. For whoever strives to be independent to examine, not only intellectually, but also spiritually, many of these threads, which you yourself mentioned, are shattered. Very similar to what you have in hypnotism. Or you have a scenario where one, through his ability or her ability, is able to either bind another or makes that person a bit more sensitive. And in that case, the one who is doing it is binding himself or herself in such a way that hereafter, such a personality who practice such hypnotism will be tied to that person whom he or she has harmed. And such a personality is unable to rise until the person who has been harmed has risen, and therefore the threads are severed. The question we will now ask yourself: who has cursed himself or herself? In these matters, one must search for a comprehensive view rather than a partial view, seeing things, all right, from a different perspective, from a spiritual perspective, rather than from a limited perspective and thinking, oh, I am stronger than this person, therefore I can do this. Again and again, it's been stressed. Vengeance is mine. Only through the laws of creation can there be improvement. Else, the human personality binds itself and is unable to improve or move forward. It is through these same traits that many, without personal examination, enslave themselves to the thoughts of others. It is again through this that many tie themselves to scenarios which will come hereafter, or when they return back to the earth, in such a place where that which they have dished out to others will now be dished out to them with such severity that they can only wake up only when deep within them they now examine it and say it is not right, and make a solemn vow to themselves that they will never, ever, in their strivings, do something to another as they themselves have suffered. As long as they have that vow, then you find that the threads are severed. Then they are free. But many a person do not wish to have that. They, one way or the other, want to seek revenge. And they are tied to the nether regions, where they can experience arbitrary behavior, bullies, all sorts of terrible things.
Thank you, Gregory, again for this answer. Now, I want to go to a different sort of, you could say, not a story, but different things that we hear also in the news or in general. This is Gregory. Now we're talking about gender identity. Let me just make sure I'm really getting this right. So Yes, there are many young people, Gregory, that are now suffering this gender identity issues, where they don't know. They seem to feel maybe they are in the wrong body, so they need to change. They're born as a female, in female body, but somehow they feel they should be male, and even there's other, let's say, I don't want to give too many different variety of examples, but just give that one as one example. And but it's happening a lot, Gregory. We were aware of it already for some time, but it's happening to younger people, more younger people now. So the question I want to ask there, Gregory, is this how is that happening? Is it something they themselves have caused? It's because they say they're born this way, or is it something else that is causing them to sort of feel they're in the wrong body, or they're not clear about their gender, or they feel they're in the wrong gender somehow?
One thing must be clearly understood, that the human personality has a free will to decide how he or she needs to proceed in its further experiencing. And therefore, when in its decision, it ensures that it looks towards, say, for the male, it looks towards that which is feminine, that it needs to experience. Through that particular activities, threads are then woven, not immediately, visible in the earthly sense. Threads are then woven such that when is granted another opportunity to experience on earth, because of its attitude towards the female sex, it then takes on, when it returns, a female body. But deep within it, it is a male. The same thing happens when you have that which is female, who, through its activities, gravitates towards the activities of a male. Threads are then woven such that when an opportunity to come back to the earth is offered, it then takes on the male form. But deep within it, it is a female. When such then incarnate, there is always a battle. For on the outside, they see or they are experiencing in a male body, but inside they are female. On the other side, on the outside, they are male, but in the inside, they sense intuitively they are female. It was they, through their activities, who decided. However, for many, they will then have to live through it for this particular earth life. Some go so far to make changes in their physical body, but before long, they find the changes they made is not right, and therefore they are confused. No one may advise or force another what they wish to do. Only through the experience can the human spirit mature, even if it has to go through harrowing experiences as they themselves have wished it. For more information or for more clarification, there is the need to examine the work in the light of truth. There, more clarifications are provided. For the bits one has mentioned here is only a token.
Thank you, Gregory, for this answer there. I hope listeners, that helps understand that, people who suffer these issues, gender identity issues, to give a picture or explanation, why they're suffering that. They don't know. They just sense something, but they're not clear. As Gregory pointed out, there's something deeper going on, which, if they were aware, let's say, help, they could receive the help and answers to their, situation. Now, Gregory, there's I could call it a wonderful story that I found again on the news. Well, it wasn't in, let's say, general news headlines, but as I'm a keen news reader, I found this story a very lovely story. So I will just, I won't read out, the story is quite long, but I just want to give a brief summary of it. So many people will be aware that in Rwanda, in 1994, there was a terrible genocide with 800,000 Tutsis, and some moderate Hutus were massacred. And in a very short period of time, I think just a few months. And this news story, which I found, is quite incredible. Basically, a woman whose husband was killed at that time of this genocide, in the genocide, I should say, the killer of that, how can I say, they went to a similar process of what we know in South Africa, where it was reconciliation. And so the person who killed this woman's husband was forgiven, the man, and somehow the daughter of that killer seemed to visit this lady, whose husband was killed, to help her. And of course, this woman knew that this is the daughter of her killer, but she needed help. She was living alone, and so this daughter was coming to help her, quite sympathetically, and she accepted that help. Anyway, after some time, the woman whose husband was killed, her own son, you could say, like this daughter of the killer, and they come together, and then they actually wanted to marry. And this mother, she agreed to, yes, that she gives her blessing to let her son marry this daughter of the killer, who actually she had forgiven that killer, just so people are aware. And so this is an incredible story. And in the story, they said the belief of this woman was her belief was that to heal, you must love. For me, this was very, very beautiful, how can I say, inspirational thought. And the thought is not even the right word, it's just thinking, that she forgave her killer, and even was happy that she got, and you could say maybe in that return of that she also had I don't know what way I say, blessing is the word I can only think of right now, to have help from the daughter of the killer, and even her own son fell in love, you could say, with that daughter, and wanted to, and then she gave the blessing to marry them, to give her blessing for marriage. So, I mean, it really is an amazing story of love, Gregory. And of course, you do not hear this. It must be a very, very, you could say, rare thing to happen like this. But Gregory, it really lifts your spirit to hear such something like this, because it just shows there can be how forgiveness can be. What forgiveness can lead to, and what incredible blessings we can receive. I don't know if you want to say something further about that.
There is very little to say other than to stress the prayer, the Lord's Prayer. Forgive us our trespasses, as we have forgiven those who trespass against us. That explains it all. For only through such understanding, just as you have a challenge, so is another. And in supporting others to overcome their challenges, you yourself, the power from on high, in the process of supporting others to overcome their challenge, you yourself draw powers to first support yourself and also to be of assistance. It is self-evident, it is clear, because it is of the light and of the way.
Thank you for that. So we've come to the end of the show, listeners. Hope you've enjoyed listening and to us, to our discussion on blessings and curses. We've covered a variety of stories and events in this, the history of the world, you can say, and even current events. We know at the moment there's the Ukraine war carrying on right now. On the surface, as we pointed to, Gregory, it might think there's a good versus evil going on, but actually can be things underneath, which we, especially when you think about previous reincarnation and previous lives, the consequences of that, why something's happening to someone. So I would hope listeners has given you an opportunity for reflection and gaining understanding about events happening. So I'm going to read, as I like to do at the end of our shows, from the Grail Message. As usual, I would like to read from the beginning of the Grail Message, the foreword, which is titled, For Your Guidance. The bandage falls, and belief becomes conviction. Liberation and redemption lie only in conviction. I'm addressing earnest seekers only. They must be able and willing to examine this matter objectively. Religious fanatics and irresponsible enthusiasts may hold aloof, for they are detrimental to the truth. As for the malevolent and prejudiced, they shall find their sentence in the very words. The message will strike only those who still carry within them a spark of truth and the yearning to be true human beings. To all such it will become the shining light and staff. It will lead them unswervingly out of all the chaos of the present day confusion. The following word does not bring a new religion, but is intended as the torch to help all serious listeners or readers find the right path, which leads them to the longed-for height. Only he who bestirs himself can advance spiritually. The fool who uses extraneous aids for this, in the form of ready-made opinions of others, only walks his path as if on crutches, while ignoring his own healthy limbs. But the moment he boldly uses all the abilities which lie dormant within him, awaiting his call to help in his ascent, he is employing the talent entrusted to him in accordance with his Creator's will, and will easily overcome all obstacles that seek to divert him. Therefore awake. Genuine faith lies only in conviction, and conviction comes solely through an inflexible weighing and examining. See that you are truly alive in the wonderful creation of your God. Apprushin. Gregory, is there anything you'd like to say to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing them all a beautiful week.
Thank you for that. And dear listeners, I wish you also a beautiful week, and urge you to pick up the Grail Message and examine for yourself. You can go to this website to get more information or get a copy of the Grail Message. It is www.grailmessage.com. That's www.grailmessage.com. Good night, everyone.